Hello everybody. In this discussion, I would like to explain about the statement the frictional force is a self-adjusting force. First of all, I want to clarify that the frictional force is a self-adjusting. What do you mean by self-adjusting? Self-adjusting means that it can adjust itself its value. That means the value may be in between a minimum and maximum, and for a different situations the value will be changed, may change, maybe a maximum may be coming to minimum, maybe in between this maximum and minimum. That is simply the self-adjusting, and you can understand deeply by analyzing the balance of this audio, this video lecture. Yeah, let's start our discussion. In here where I am shown 4 figures, and you just make some arrangement to see these figures along with this audio. In the first figure, where I am shown a body of mass 10 kg, which is kept on a horizontal surface. This horizontal surface is not smoothie, that means it has some coefficient of friction, and the value of coefficient of friction of the surface is 0.2, and acceleration due to gravity at that surface is 10 meter per second square. So the maximum friction force developed on the surface is a low coefficient of friction into multiplied by mg, where I am shown that values in this figure, in this diagram. That means 0.2 into mass is equal to 10 into multiplied by acceleration due to gravity is again 10, and the total 20 Newton is the maximum force developed. Yes, this is the maximum force developed. Maximum friction force can developed by this surface is 20 Newton. Okay, just kept that value there. Take the second figure. In the second figure, the same body which is kept on a same surface, but there is a little change. That means a 10 Newton is acting on the rightward direction. A 10 Newton is rightward direction. The body will tends to move. The body will tends to move means that the friction force will develop on this body, which will oppose this tendency. And the value of this friction force developed on the surface is 10 Newton only, not that 20 Newton is formed. How this happen? There is a little arrangement is made by the friction force, and I will explain the concept behind is that. Assume that, let us take a chance. Assume that the 20 Newton is developing in the opposite direction. 20 Newton force is acting in the opposite direction. That means you are applying 10 Newton towards the rightward direction, and 20 Newton is developing the friction force in the opposite direction. A net force of 10 Newton in the leftward direction. The body will start to move in the leftward direction. It will never happen. It will never happen. This situation is same as like a body. The same body is kept on a horizontal surface, having some friction value 0.2. Then the frictional force developed is 20 Newton, and while kept in this body on the surface, the body will start to move without an additional force, without any aid of force. It will never happen in the space or in anywhere. So it will adjust itself to a 10 Newton, and the total net force acting on this body is 0. The body will remain in the state of rest. You can take the second figure. In the second figure, where I am applying a 20 Newton towards the rightward direction, yes, frictional force will develop, but the value of friction force developed is 20 Newton, because the maximum value that can be developed by the surface is 20 Newton, and these two forces are in the opposite direction. The body will remain rest. You can take that third figure. In the third figure, where I am shown, a 30 Newton is applied in the rightward direction. Yeah, of course, the friction force is again develops. but the value of frictional force is only 20, not 30. Why? Because the maximum frictional force developed on this surface is 20 Newton only. So that maximum will develop, that is 20 Newton in the opposite to that of 30 Newton. And the body has a net force of 10 Newton towards the rightward direction. By consuming this 10 Newton, the body will start to move towards the rightward direction, and the body will start to accelerate, and the body will accelerate with an acceleration of 1 meter per second square towards the rightward direction, and the body will start to move with a 1 meter per second square. This is the way how we are answering this statement. If you yes, let us take an example. If you are just placing a body on a horizontal surface which is not smoothie, what will be the frictional force developed? Yeah, of course the friction force developed is zero, because there is no applied force. When applied force is zero, the friction force developed on this body is zero, so the body will remain stationary for a long time. That is the concept. If you have any doubt in this statement, in this explanation, you can just add your comments and doubts on the comment box. Okay, thank you. Hello everybody. In this discussion, I would like to explain about the statement the friction force is a self-adjusting force. First of all, I want to clarify that the frictional force is a self-adjusting. What do you mean by self-adjusting? Self-adjusting means that it can adjust itself its value. That means